Today I'm going to discuss a topic which was extremely topical in the United States in the summer of 2020, but which is much less talked about today. That is the topic of defunding the police. If we all remember, back in the summer of 2020, following the death of George Floyd, there was a massive campaign across the United States, backed by street protests, to defund the police. And there were also protests in all sorts of US cities, in Seattle, in Portland, in many different places. And this all led to a big campaign taken up by Democratic Party mayors and Democratic Party politicians and spoken about at the Democratic Party's convention in the summer to defund the police. Now, this policy is not so much talked about today because I think it is universally accepted that in the November national election, it proved a deeply unpopular issue. So unpopular that some people in the Democratic Party see it as the reason why the Democrats failed to make electoral breakthroughs in the Senate and in the House elections, and also in state houses of representatives and in the national elections, where the expected blue wave failed to materialize. So it's not a topic that gets talked about very much, but that doesn't mean that it isn't to a great extent happening. We no longer hear people say, defund the police. It's more talk now about reallocating resources away from the police, but undoubtedly and unquestionably, police budgets across the United States are being cut. Thus, Los Angeles has cut its police budget by $150 million. Seattle has cut its police budget by $69 million. San Francisco has cut its police budget by $60 million over the next 2 years. Denver has cut its police budget by $50 million. These are cuts of between 10 and 20% of city police budgets. Other cities, Houston, Oakland, Portland, Maine, are also cutting police budgets. And Atlanta, which has not done so, has decided to close its city jail and to reallocate funding into what its mayor calls a community wellness center. Some cities, New York, Milwaukee, Austin, have not actually gone so far, at least not yet, but there have been attempts to cut police budgets in Milwaukee, and there's reports of the police there being severely demoralized and of an exodus from the police service, as many officers feel they no longer have the backing of the local city government or of the local community. Now, what is striking about this is the persistence with which some Democratic Party city governments are persisting with this policy, and despite its great unpopularity, and despite the fact that there has been across the United States, almost certainly as a consequence of this policy, a significant spike in violent crime. In New York, which of course has not yet cut its police budget, but where there is pressure to do so, and where the police also apparently feel demoralized and sense that they do not have the full backing of the mayor and of the city government. We saw a film recently of a violent incident on Fifth Avenue where a BMW car was attacked by a group of young people on Fifth Avenue, where damage was done to this car with its windscreen being smashed. Now, of course, we don't know the full story behind this incident, but it does seem very disturbing that it took place, and it seems even more disturbing that it was able to happen without very much intervention, or without any intervention apparently, by the New York police force or by other people to try to restrain and control what was going on. So we see a rise in violent crime across the United States, at least in the big cities. We see the unpopularity of this policy and the extent to which it has actually lost the Democratic Party critical support in national elections. And yet we still see Democratic Party city governments persisting with it and Democratic Party activists continuing to support it. And that begs the question of why. I can only assume that this is because these activists and these Democratic Party officials have come to see this policy as somehow an identitarian one which sets out their own ideology and which defines them as what they are. So the result is that they persist with it despite all the political and other problems it is causing for them and for the communities which support them. All I could say about that is that defunding the police is a catastrophically bad idea in the United States, as it would be in any other country. Moreover, I predict this is going to get an ever bigger problem, especially with a likely Biden administration, which seems incapable of getting a firm grasp of this issue. So I'm afraid that the United States is going to see or witness more problems of this nature to come, and perhaps more difficulties as summer approaches and protests perhaps begin to take force. Thank you for joining me on this program, and please remember also to join us on our main channel at the Duran, and also support us as you can by coming to our shop, buying the great merchandise we have here, our famous magic mugs, our t-shirts, our hats, various other articles of merchandise which gain such a tremendous reception from our viewers who buy it. Support us by coming to our other platforms, and please also remember to subscribe to this channel, to the Duran channel, and also support us through Subscribestar, Patreon and PayPal. Thank you very much.